Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the Diverse Dialogues podcast. And guys, unfortunately, I have to hit you with some bad news. Ruben is not here today because he's a little sick, so F's in chat for Ruben. Ruben, if you're watching this, go ahead and comment down whatever the hell you want. You can say hi or whatever the hell. Just let people know that you're going to be fine. And hopefully, he'll be back for the next 2 weeks podcast. But for today's podcast, since it's only going to be me, I'm just basically going to do what we promised last time. And today's podcast is all about our original anti-heroes that we created through a name generator back in high school. And I'm not going to go through the questions today because there's no point of me asking questions to myself. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And yeah. Now, before I get started, let me preface this by saying that this was originally meant to be a joke, and then I added a lot more lore to these characters than I thought, and I ended up liking them a lot. So, yeah, a lot of these characters will definitely sound unoriginal, but hey, if there could be Omni-Man and Homelander being rip-off Superman, and no one bats an eye, I think I can get away with it. So, just putting that out there. But yeah, let me just start off by saying what my character I got was. So before, also I should probably mention what exactly the name generator was. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's basically like those images that like have your letters, like the letters of the alphabet for your first name initial and your last name initial, and whatever you get gets your name. So for instance, it could have the letter A be Captain and the letter M for your last name be America, just for example. And it would get together to create Captain America. But obviously, they're not going to use licensed characters. They're just going to make up some random ones. And again, it was only meant to be a fun gimmick, but I took it way too damn seriously, like I always do with a lot of these projects. And then I added a lot more lore to it. So I'll start off with mine, and mine was Professor Cobra. So Professor Cobra was the one I put the most effort in because, duh, it's my character. And what it basically is this. Basically, if you would imagine the Hulk and the Lizard and Killer Croc basically put into one, that's basically what you're getting. So let me bring in the lore for you guys. The lore. Excuse me. Professor Cobra basically got through an upbringing where his parents went off to the military, so he was basically with his uncle the majority of the time, and his uncle was into basically the science of reptiles. I forgot the exact term of it, but his uncle was also one who got kicked out of college for a reason that I won't get into. I also want to make this podcast a little shorter than the rest of them because it's going to be... I'm probably going to go off tangent if I get too much into it, so I'll just make it semi-brief, like a little bit of cliff notes, but also give you guys enough lore to understand it. And, of course, Professor Cobra, I'd also call them by their hero names because it's a lot easier to understand. And Professor Cobra's uncle, like I said, was into the study of reptiles and science, and he was very into that. And Professor Cobra was, of course, being inspired by that. And he says, "I want to do the same thing that you did." And his uncle pretty much is like, "No, don't do it. I don't want you to do the same thing as me, and end up like the same fate as me." But of course, what every kid does, they ignore their parental figures whenever they want to do something they want. And eventually, he gets into college. There's a very big jump. We get into college with Professor Cobra, and he is, of course, studying reptiles. And the idea that his uncle was trying to do was to have reptiles be more adaptive towards their environment and cause less deaths in reptilian-related deaths in the years. So basically, just like make sure that reptiles don't kill humans often. And that also applies to many other things like crocodiles and all that. Crocodile deaths, snake bites, all that shit. So that way reptiles can stay away from humans and just be more adaptive, like I said. And so Professor Cobra goes into college, and he basically is doing whatever he can to make sure he can fulfill his uncle's dream. And long story short, after a lot of trial and error, he finally figures it out. And, he then goes... and there is this science fair, or like the science presentation, where everyone gets to show off what they've done. And what it is basically this big machine that basically takes, and basically also there's going to be a whole lot of like superhero, like science logic that doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm going full at it with this one. And yeah, so Professor Cobra, he shows off his experiment with realizing that the way that he wants to have reptiles be more adapted towards their environment is to have other DNA from other reptiles, while also giving a serum that also contains all that DNA from other reptiles, but also makes them more intelligent. And to help balance it out, they need warm blood, human blood. And so that way they can be able to withstand colder temperatures. Again, a lot of this is stupid, but hey, I love making stories, so can you really blame me? So yeah, everything was supposed to go well, and then eventually it gets to the point where he gets to show it off. And what he's basically done was that he has a needle where it's supposed to like suck his blood and put it into the cobra that was used as a test subject, or like the presentation of what's gonna, for the presentation he uses a cobra, duh. And what ends up happening is the machine malfunctions for a mysterious reason, and it goes in reverse. So it then takes the DNA, the blood from the cobra, and the serum that is used that was supposed to make the cobra more intelligent and more adaptive, and it all goes into him. And then it causes the machine to explode, and it causes an entire evacuation of the place except for him. And that's when he then transforms into the Professor Cobra. Like I said, basically imagine like Killer Croc and like with a more Hulk type of muscular body and with a lab coat on, but with a cobra head. That's basically what I imagine. Again, it's not original, but hey, Omni-Man's here. Omni-Man exists and Homelander exists, so I think I can get away with it. And basically what his powers are is that he basically has like the abilities of multiple reptiles, so he can camouflage like a chameleon, be able to the speed of a snake, the strength of a crocodile, and the chomp strength of a crocodile, the venom of a black mamba. You get the idea. And there is a hidden trait with this character, where it is the Komodo dragon trait, and this also applies to all the reptiles in general, but he basically, whenever he gets ticked off, and this is where the Hulk aspect comes in, if you either hurt him severely or you make him get really pissed off, because a little bit of to understand what's going on, before he turns into the Professor Cobra, he was always a person that struggled with anger management, and what he always had to do was like clench his fists to calm himself. And he always had a way to, I'm stuttering so much. He always had a way to find out how to why am I drawing a blank on this? This is so stupid. To calm himself. And with that being said, when he turns into this creature, if he were to get mad in any sort of way, that unleashes his reptilian killer instinct. No Killer Instinct reference. And he basically then loses control, and he then goes on a rampage and starts killing things that he redeems a threat. And his whole moral before he became that way was that he doesn't want to kill anybody, and then now it's like a bipolar situation where he was like, I don't want to kill, and next thing you know, his killer instinct comes in and just kills everything on sight, which I like to call reptilian rage. And the cool part about it is that the way that I want to have the lore go down is that when he tries to calm himself by doing that like clenching fist tactic, he has very long nails, so it will like dig into his palm and make him even more angry because of that. So his whole like storyline would be like him trying to find new ways to not get angry by doing other things, while also trying to control and be able to utilize that anger for his betterment and try to get used to his new form. So that's basically like what I thought of for Professor Cobra, and I'm still trying to like think about it to improve on it, like I said. But now let's move on to Ruben's character, which is Shadow Soldier. So Shadow Soldier was another one where I thought that was kind of fun. So Shadow Soldier, and I want to, what the hell was I thinking? Oh my god, I can't speak. I also don't want to add this whole stupid multiverse situation. I'd rather just have it be one universe, but in multiple planets throughout the galaxy, since I think people forget how big the goddamn universe is. So, like, how many galaxies there are out there, so we can just have it be the same universe, just in different planets and light years away. So, yeah. And in this world, for Shadow Soldier, the Earth for Professor Cobra is basically like regular Earth, but for the Earth for Shadow Soldier is like basically Warfest. There's almost like battles going on all the time, and he at first was supposed to be a medic, but then was transferred to being a soldier because of how much their team was losing, and he realizes he actually has a good gift for being a soldier and can do really, really great on battlefields. And the enemy team realizes this, and they're like, "Crap, we need to get rid of this guy because he's way too good." And what they do is that they ambush him and they basically kill him, which then sends him to hell. Yes, there is heaven and hell, well, mainly hell. I haven't thought of heaven yet, but which sends him to hell because he killed people. And the way I thought of hell for this one is that it's only basically an endless graveyard with the Grim Reaper as the only person in hell. There's no devil, there's nothing like that. It's only the Grim Reaper that just takes you to your respected grave where you then fall into eternal burning and suffering. That's basically what I thought of for hell. Make it somewhat unique. And Shadow Soldier is like, I don't deserve this. I got ambushed, and I feel like there's way more people that deserve to be in here than I do. And the Grim Reaper's like, all right, I'll make you a deal. If you manage to help bring in people that actually deserve to die, then I can be able to spare you and not be able to have you get killed. And to only have you be able to do this, I'll grant you half of my power, and only will be able to restore you a little bit of your life. And of course, because of the excitement of not being in hell, he's like, I'll take it. And he then gets resurrected, and unfortunately, like I said, he only gets to be restored a little bit of it. So he's basically a somewhat restored walking corpse that has a little bit of decaying flesh and all that, and skulls showing off, like skeletons a little bit showing off. And what he does to cover himself is using his, and also he sends them off many, many years into the future where there's basically no more wars. So that just defeats the whole purpose of him being up there. But of course, there's always a catch with these type of things. And he then uses old armor that was either rotten or like hidden in the ground. And that's basically his costume. He's basically like an undead soldier. And his powers is that he can go from dimensions to dimensions with his shadow portals. So basically kind of like Noob Saibot. And with Noob Saibot with a gun, basically. And yeah, he can be able to find people. And his whole purpose is just to kill them and to find evil, just to send them to hell and help the Grim Reaper actually bring in evil souls. And for that reason alone is, I don't know, I feel like that actually would be a really cool character to have. If they're, honestly, all of these characters I believe would be really, really cool. So, but anyways, I haven't really thought of it too much since it's not really my character. I wanted to have my friends be more involved with their own characters and have them pretty much think of the story. And I kind of worked with Ruben with this one, but that's basically what I thought of. Like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into it because I'll probably lose my voice if I were to try to do it. But let's move on to Phantom Bolt. Excuse me, let me just drink some water. So, Phantom Bolt, I wanted to have a character where it had a much more darker, very sad, and traumatizing story. And because of YouTube policies, I'm not going to say much of it out loud. All I know is that there is some, how do I say this? Violence, to say the least, involving family. So, let's just leave it at that. So, basically, it starts off with this couple in New York, who their day job is basically in business, and at night they're bartenders, and they are a really great couple, but they never wanted to have kids. But then one day they got drunk and did the business, and they got pregnant. But whenever people were like, "Oh, you should go to the hospital, you should get that checked out, you know, you're pregnant," and they would always shrug it off and say they call it a phantom pregnancy. And I forgot to mention that this is Montana's name, by the way. And, you know, they shrug it off and they call it a phantom pregnancy, which is an actual thing, by the way. And then when the time came that, you know, the baby was supposed to come out, they rush to the hospital, and the reality kicks in, and now they realize that crap, we have a kid now. And instead of, oh, I don't know, maybe leaving them for adoption, or at least that would be a more sane thing to do, or maybe treating them like an actual good parenting, learn how to be a good parent, they do the whole alcoholic downfall of parenting that makes them lose their jobs, and also on top of that, blaming the child for their downfall, even though it's not even the child's fault. And he gets into a very, very abusive, I guess I just dropped the name right there, a very, very bad upbringing. And which then, after when he turns 18, he then reveals to his counselor at school what's going on. And then he gets sent to a foster family while the two parents were then arrested. And after when they were released, they got into a car accident, into an electrical pole that then killed them. And then afterwards he goes to the grave site, and then because it's New York, lightning strikes, and then again, this is all kind of stupid shit, but again, I love making stories like this. Lightning strikes where he is after looking at their grave, which then conducts into the powerful the superhero magic, where his soul remains intact, but then he becomes this electrical entity fueled by rage and confusion, and basically is just trying to find answers and trying to be redeeming, try to find his way to get used to his new form. A lot of it has to do with that with all these characters, but he in particular is a very troubled soul, a broken man, and he unleashes his frustration on almost anything, and basically like this electrical being. I haven't really thought of like how I wanted this character to look like, but like I said, I can't really think of it. So if anyone were to do some fan art of all of these characters, and I'll give you a little bit of like a cheat sheet on how I envisioned it, let me know. If there's any artists out there that somehow managed to watch this video, leave a comment, and then we'll get into talking. Alright, and after taking a small vocal break, now let's get back right into it, because I just got a new thing of water. That was weird. But let's move on to... So we got Professor Cobra, Shadow Soldier, and Phantom Bolt. Let's get into Ghost Blaze, Landon's character. Ghost Blaze is a bit of a fun one. His character was a professional soccer player, and basically he was like that show-off guy, but he didn't intend to be a show-off guy. And of course his teammates are incredibly jealous of the fact that he's this amazing soccer player that pretty much carries the entire team. Think of Jordan whenever we do like anything related to shooting games. And every time they pretty much always get the victories, but they always feel like it's a hollow victory. Excuse me. And one day when a new tournament is starting to begin, his own team is having enough of this, and they're like, we want to get rid of him, and we want to see if we can do this by ourselves. Spoiler alert, in the future, they become the worst team ever. And what they do to get rid of him, instead of, maybe doing something normal, like, maybe telling him, hey, letting the referee put him out so that way they have a chance to, show off what they can do. Like actual normal sports. Since they always usually leave out the best player to rest for a little bit, if I remember correctly. Nope, they decide to just douse his uniform in a little bit of gasoline, and when they're doing while they're in their tournament in Arizona, of all places. Sweet water. Which then, of course, I had to do some research, and yes, gasoline will catch on fire if it's directly exposed to sun, and what better place to get caught in sun in one of the most hottest states in the United States. And yeah, which then of course sets him ablaze, and then starts to almost have the entire arena get on fire. And then, like kind of the same thing with Phantom Bolt. I'm getting confused with my own characters. This is very weird to do without somebody else, guys. Trust me. And he basically his soul stays intact. A lot of it has to do with like their soul being the reason why they become like this. So he basically becomes this entity of fire. Yes, this is very original. Definitely not like Blaze or the Human Torch in any way, shape, or form. I'll probably see if I can find like a different way to interpret Ghost Blaze. Like I said, if any artists are out there besides Lulu, we can definitely think of something. Um, but yeah, he's basically an entity of fire, and his ability is that because he's all about soccer, he becomes the flaming soccer ball. No, I'm just kidding. He basically becomes this will-o-wisp, basically what it is, if y'all know what Pokemon is. And he basically can just, fly around, do some cool aerial stuff. And his main source of attacking is with his legs. So, yeah, not much else to say about that. Like I said, the most depth I went into this was Professor Cobra and what's the other one? Phantom Bolt, for some reason. But now let's move on to the last one, which is Glenn's character. So yeah, we're already on our last character, and like I said, this is going to be a very short podcast for today, since there's no point of just making an hour-long video with just by myself. So anyways, we're on to Glenn's character now. Here's the thing. His current character's name is Golden Wolf, but that's not what the name generator that we used for the majority of these characters before, that's not what he got at first. On the same name generator, that's what all we got, but on that same name generator, Glenn, the guy who is the biggest geek when it comes to superhero shit out of all this entire group, got probably one of the lamest and dumbest names known to man. And we haven't made fun of him for this in a very long time, so Glenn, just know I'm not trying to make fun of you for this. This is just me talking about it, and I know you'll and you hate talking about it or even hearing about it, so this is just for explaining things, so don't get too mad at me. He got Iron Brain. To say that we mocked him relentlessly is an understatement for how dumb of a name that was. I'm not laughing because of the idea of it. It's just the funny. I am laughing about that because what could you do with a character named Iron Brain that won't be stupid? The only thing we could think of is like, oh, he manipulates iron, but that's done before. Actually, I can't really say that because all of our characters are unoriginal. But with a character named Iron Brain, that power sounds too cool. I think even Ruben was like, that's too cool for a character named Iron Brain. So we tried relentlessly to think of something cool for this character, but with a name like Iron Brain, it's just too stupid not to make not stupid. So, and the one thing that we pretty much all agreed on was he was basically like the Team Rocket, the Syndrome, the one failing supervillain that nobody takes seriously, and that his backstory is that he tried to save people from a burning building with just an aluminum foil hat, and everyone was like, dude, stop, you're literally embarrassing yourself. And when the actual team up happens, originally it was called the Fearsome Four with those other four characters I mentioned earlier, they say, dude, like literally what happened in The Incredibles, like, go away, dude, you're not gonna help anybody with that, like, you're gonna hurt yourself. And of course he takes that way too personally, and then basically does the stupidest thing you could ever imagine. Instead of just, taking in that criticism and being like, maybe I should just focus on whatever I need to do, the thing I thought of was that he removes his scalp and replaces it with an iron cap. Yeah. To add stupid with stupid, basically. And I could not think of anything else to make it anything near cool for a name like Iron Brain. And we mocked Glenn relentlessly for that. And of course, he definitely got pissed off because of it. And I feel a little bad for it, looking back on it, because that was around the time when his anger was at his most highest. He's definitely have chilled out, like, over the years. But if I were to actually bring up Iron Brain to this day, he probably would still want to beat my ass afterwards. So, yeah, there's that. And Iron Brain was, of course, joked on, and it was so joked on that we even made a world in Minecraft where it was pretty much dedicated to our superhero characters. I'll just call them anti-hero characters, whatever. And we basically built his base to be on the same level of Eggman, where it's just Glenn's face with an iron cap on. I can't even envision it to this day. It's the stupidest thing. One of the stupidest things we've ever done on this fucking group. And, we would always, and of course, Glenn did not like that. So we searched endlessly for any other name generator that would make it sound cool without being repeating powers. Cause there was always fire, something, but it's nope, that's overlapping with Landon's one. And then we found another one called Diamond Feline. And we were like, that should be his sidekick. That absolutely, it's like that, kind of what is it? What is it? The cat from Gargamel's cat. I forgot his name, but that's basically what it is. He hates his owner, basically. And basically just a cat made of diamond, I guess. And of course, Glenn just continuously is getting mad over this. I already can tell he's probably just I fucking hate you guys just listening to this if you were to ever listen to one of these. And then eventually we finally got one that he was like, okay, I can work with this one. He got Golden Wolf, like I said. So Golden Wolf is basically this guy who was traveling the world, and he got into Egypt and was visiting the pyramids. And in one of those pyramids he was not supposed to go into, he finds a book that casts a spell that gives him the Golden Wolf. An ancient figure that was, that dates back centuries upon centuries old. And basically kind of is a Venom situation where it talks to him in his mind. And that whenever he is exposed to direct sunlight, the Golden Wolf takes form of that. So for instance, if he is in a dark, dark alleyway where there's no sun hitting, and if you were to reach his hand out where the sun then pulls is showing, that area will only be, oh my god, that was loud. That whole area will his hand will pretty much be in the form of the Golden Wolf. And one of the funniest thing is too about Golden Wolf is that Glenn thought of a very dumb way for his powers to work, and that he has to go into a pyramid to get his powers back. So if we were in a situation where the Fearsome Five, from 4 to 5, the Fearsome Five, that's our character's team name, were to be fighting this villain, and then he has to go all the way to Egypt to this pyramid just to get his powers back. So instead, my way of doing it is that he uses his powers in the daytime, and at night, the moonlight, the moon, the moon gets his powers back. And a cool feature that I thought of was that whenever there is a solar eclipse, that's basically his doomsday form, where he can pretty much cause any destruction that he wants. His ultimate power, the most powerful entity in the world. And because solar eclipse only lasts for a split minute, it's only temporary, and then he'll basically let's just get back to his regular form. So there's a cool gimmick with Golden Wolf, and thank God I thought of a good gimmick, and that Glenn got to have a better character than just Iron Brain. And like I said, it's a dead meme, but back then, oh my god, it was mocked on him relentlessly, guys. But there you go, guys. That's pretty much it. Just a lore drop for a couple of our original characters that we've made. And you might be wondering, what about Jordan and Lulu? This is way before that Jordan was even... Both Jordan and Lulu were even a part of the Diverse Society. And plus, Jordan's name would overlap with a lot of our characters' names, since his name would be Phantom Soldier, I think. So that would not really mean anything. Although that's kind of funny how he got Soldier in his name, since he is a Bucky main in Mortal Rivals. But anyways, coincidence? I think not. But that's basically going to wrap it up, guys. If I would love to see fan art of this, and maybe if there are some people that want to do art about this, I would love to see art of Professor Cobra, Shadow Soldier, Phantom Bolt, Ghost Blaze, and Golden Wolf. And y'all can choose to do Iron Brain if you want, and just use it as a joke. But I would love to see what a lot of people would imagine what they would think about it, and then I would maybe give you guys some reference points, and then y'all would be like, all right, I got you. I can turn this character to life, because I can envision a lot of the characters on how I want them to look like. And yeah, but either way, even if you guys just do it on however you think the character's name would be, I would still love to see it. If that were to be the case, if anyone were to actually watch this damn video. But yeah, hopefully Ruben gets better, and that we'll be able to have him here for the podcast in the next 2 weeks. And for next topic, I'll get back to you on that. All right. And for the next podcast, for episode 8, we're going to be going over our scrapped ideas or abandoned ideas that we've made for skits that have just been left in a Google Doc that we have put down and never went through them. And then we'll just go over it and then give context on some of them. And overall, just uh, go through a trip down memory lane, and a very cringy trip down memory lane. And maybe that can inspire us to bring some of these ideas back and actually make them into skits and stuff, since that our recent skit for the video games are cool, but I really enjoy making that. So hopefully we'll be able to continue making skits again. But other than that, I'm Mateo, and hopefully we'll have Ruben back for the next episode, and I'll see you guys next time.